This is the KoperCrabb Podcast.
I am Cheney Crab.
I am Naveen Copperweiss.
You can watch our podcast live on Twitch every single Tuesday at 7:30 p.m. Central Standard Time at twitch.tv/KoperCrabb. If you want to leave us a voicemail, we'll play it on the podcast. You can call into 615-314-5053. That's one way to ask questions. Also, you can email us at KoperCrabbPodcast@gmail.com. Ask a question in our Discord, or we will take your question usually every Tuesday at 7:30 in our Twitch chat. If you would like to buy ENTHEOS merch, which you can see both Naveen and I are sporting ENTHEOS merch. That's our band. I am the vocalist. Naveen plays drums, writes all the music. You can go to www.entheosstore.com. We just put out a new song. We just put out a remix last week. It's a drum core remix of our song, I Am the Void. If you guys haven't checked that out, you can find it on Spotify. It's on YouTube, anywhere you want to listen to your music. But that's where I listen, Apple Music, whatever.
Check it out on Spotify and YouTube, actually.
Yeah, check it out on both. And
drop a comment on the YouTube. That would help us out.
Yeah, actually do go and do that.
Like it.
Yeah, like it. Anything you can do, go and play it like 20 times on mute with it and have no idea that it's playing.
Is that how it works? Is there someone out there that knows that? Can you play a song 20 times and it counts as 20 plays?
I believe so. Why would
I think that's the TikTok thing. I think they count.
TikTok counts every single thing.
Yeah, every single play. But I think on Instagram, when you watch it once on your phone, they know that you watched it already. And that's that. You're out of here.
Instagram?
I think so.
What you're saying is not true. Well, I don't know about the replays, but you can go back and watch it and it will count for more plays.
Really?
Yeah.
Shit, I didn't know that.
Really?
I thought it was just one play per person.
No. Mm-mm. All right, well, that settles that.
Yeah.
Anyways, if you want to get a KoperCrabb merch, like one of these coffee cups that we're drinking out of right now, then go to www.KoperCrabb.bigcartel.com. Also, in the ENTHEOS merch store, we just restocked pink hoodies and drip tees are restocked. Those are two of our best sellers. So if you don't have one, you're kind of missing out, and I would go and grab one.
The pink hoodie has been a hit in 2023, and it's already shaping up to be an even bigger hit in 2024.
Yeah. The pink hoodie,
so
man.
It's still in.
That's the one. It's still in. It hasn't gone out.
Yeah, and we are going to sell those fuckers until no one wants to wear them.
You know what else never goes out of style? A black t-shirt.
Yeah, there you go.
It never goes out of style. Yep. A black band t-shirt. I mean, if your Uncle Marv has a t-shirt collection, he's like, oh, I went to see Journey in 1971, and I have a Journey shirt from that show. It's in my closet. Your ears should immediately be perking up and you're like, Uncle Marv or Merv, whatever your name was. You can get $1,000 from that out of that shirt right now because it has not gone out of style. That's true. Fact, it's even more in style than it was back then.
That's right. So what Cheney's trying to say is you can go buy a shirt
from us.
And it's a solid investment.
It's a solid investment. When you drive it off the parking lot, it increases in value.
It does.
It's the opposite of a car. It's a way better deal.
Everybody wins.
So Everybody wins here. Speaking of that, our friends in Gorod and Wormhole, we don't know Hath, but also them. Their shows got canceled last night and tonight. Last night was in Knoxville, I believe. Or was it Chattanooga? One of those two.
Yeah, one was in Knoxville. And then tonight was supposed to be in Nashville. That's the reason why we were bringing this up, is because we were going to have Wormhole on the podcast.
Right.
And it was going to be a great time. It's going to be really fun.
It was going to be a great time. We love Sanjay and Noni.
Yeah.
Those are our boys. But they had to cancel the show. So those guys are missing out on, they're losing money right now. That's what happens when you have to cancel a show. You do not get your guarantee. So we're talking about 2 nights in a row that a band has flown from France to miss 2 shows, and that can hurt you significantly financially on a tour. So go and grab merch from those guys, especially this week. You can skip our shirts this week. Go and grab merch from them.
I don't know about that, actually. I don't know about that.
Buy one from both of us. Buy one from all of us. No, I'm just kidding. But please go and support those guys because they need it right now. They're losing money on these 2 nights because of the snowpocalypse that is happening in Tennessee.
Yes, that's right. We are having a snowed in hang right now. And this actually is reminding me of COVID, the COVID lockdowns.
Me too.
Because you can leave here, but I mean, it's kind of, there's not that many people out.
Right.
It's kind of hard to get around.
Well,
options are limited, I guess.
See, where I'm from, this is like essentially nothing. So if you've got a truck, you can be out driving in this weather. It's not really that big of a deal, but
I guess here in Tennessee, they don't have as much snow. It's not such a big part of the season.
Right.
So when it does snow for a week or whatever, people just sort of take it easy.
Yeah, they don't have the infrastructure where we live now to deal with this because there's such little snowfall in Nashville that it doesn't make sense to invest in like huge snow plows that are only really going to come out once or twice a year. Right. It wastes a lot of money. So when a snowstorm like this happens, everyone just kind of hunkers down and stays inside. And like Naveen said, it's very reminiscent of what COVID was because everyone just stayed in their house. In California especially, it made me realize that people in California, there's rarely a reason to stay home. There's rarely a reason to like hunker down in your house because you don't get this kind of weather really. So COVID,
same year round.
COVID was like kind of a time when you just hunkered down and learned to bake and do all of that stuff.
Started a podcast. Although we started ours before COVID.
We're OG hipster podcasters.
We started the podcast and then I think it was like 3 weeks later, all the COVID stuff started popping off.
No, it was later than that. We started the podcast in like October.
Okay. So it was a couple months.
I think it was like 4 or 5 months.
Okay. There you go. We did it before it was cool.
So we were OG hipster podcasters and we did the opposite of everyone and stopped doing a podcast during COVID.
That's right. We got tired of it.
We were like,
fuck this.
I don't know if we should do this. Like, what are we doing? But then so many people talked to us about it. There were so many golden lobsters out there before they even knew that they were golden lobsters. That was the first era of the podcast who told us that the podcast meant a lot to them. So we were like, okay, maybe we're doing something that...
That's why we brought it back.
Yep. That's why
if nobody cared, I would have just said, screw it. There's that blast beat.
See, okay,
those of you on YouTube, that's just a random blast beat. We can't figure it out. We don't know what's going on there.
We don't know. We think we're haunted by the ghost of blast beats past.
It sounds great. It's a great sounding blast beat, whoever did that.
Oh, okay. We were talking about this in the post show that we have a clip that went viral on Instagram.
Yeah, we did. I'm considering it to be viral.
I'm considering it to be viral.
It's over 100,000 plays. And we don't get that kind of plays on clips around here.
No, we don't.
Around these parts.
And so what we were saying is that we cut the clip out of context. So it was about drum triggers.
I don't think it was out of context as much as it was... We took out the nuance. We took out the disclaimers.
You're right.
And we made it a more polarizing statement.
Right. Because the original statement that I made was that drum triggers, depending on your band.
Like if you're a heavy band, it's going to make a lot more sense to have it. And then you kind of explained why.
Right. Well, I don't even know if I explained why, which now I'll explain why. So if you're a band that has... for instance, doubles, which is a technique that Naveen uses in our newer music, especially. Is there anyone who's doing doubles who isn't going to use a trigger?
I think like one person does.
Okay, man. Shout out to that person.
Virgil Donati does, but it's not the same thing.
Virgil.
It's a different thing. It's not like the death metal double.
So what I was speaking about was that there is a certain kind of heavy band where you really need to use triggers. There's a certain kind of heavy band, of course, where you shouldn't use triggers. You don't want to see Mastodon or a band like that with triggers. So anyway, that's what I said. We cut it out to make it seem like way more polarizing than that. And what do you know? People still care about the trigger debate.
What do you know? It was
in
awesome.
The year 2024.
We stoked the fire.
We did.
I was sitting there with the popcorn laughing all the way. It was great. I loved it. I wish we could have more clips like that.
So that goes to show you when you're seeing clips on Instagram, when you're scrolling by stuff, if a podcaster, someone who does interviews, content creator of any kind, really, they're cutting up their clips to gain more traction. So when you have a clip that causes people to comment one way or another, which I noticed more than ever on this post, that people were making like paragraph long explanations of why you should or shouldn't use triggers. So it was like not only getting a bunch of comments, but getting a bunch of really long, thoughtful comments about people who truly cared about this. Yeah. So when you do, people are trying to get that kind of reaction out of people when they're posting to a platform like TikTok or Instagram, because that drives up the engagement. And what does that do? It leads more people to your page or to your podcast.
Yep.
So just keep that in mind. The next time you're scrolling.
A KCP PSA for you guys.
KCP PSA. Breaking news.
Don't care about it. Let's just put it that way. Just don't care.
But anyway, we were thinking that it would be funny to make a clip in the total opposite direction. Yeah. And that would probably do about equally as well on the...
I don't know. I think being pro trigger is the more... villainous take.
Yeah. What I did notice is that it's a lot of like more old school type people who don't want to use triggers, which I kind of already knew that anyway. But also that there are so many people who just still don't understand how triggers are used at all or what they do. So do you want to explain that for people?
What do triggers really exciting do? Explaining what they do.
Can you put it in real quick layman's terms?
Yeah.
What
so you
do
have
triggers do?
You have a bass drum. When you hit it, it's a big drum. Mm-hmm. So the sounds don't, the transients aren't as distinct, meaning each hit is not going to be very distinct. If you're going really fast, like on a tighter drum, it's going to be faster. It's going to come through quicker. Snare drum. So what you do is you put a trigger, which is just, it just makes like a clicking sound, which sends that to a drum module computer thing. And that replaces that click trigger hit with a kick drum sample.
Right.
And that's it.
So
that's all it does.
Things that you can do with a trigger, and people, I noticed over and over, were talking about the clicky sound of a trigger. In this day and age, you can choose the drum sample that is being used on your trigger. So you're not necessarily... Is the clicky sound coming from an old module that only had like one trigger?
I think just typically they have a lot more high end because it's you're getting the same hit every single time. Whereas with a kick drum, you're not going to have that much attack on every single hit.
Right.
The exact same way.
So the other thing that you can do is also do a 50-50 blend, which a lot of people do. And a 50-50 blend is just blending a sample with an acoustic kick. So then that avoids a lot of the clickiness, I would assume. Yeah, or it provides more low end.
Both worlds, I guess you could say.
So there are all kinds of ways to maneuver this. It's not one trigger to rule them all. It's not there's one trigger sound and your drum is always going to sound like that one thing. Yeah.
I've been fooled. When we saw Between the Buried and Me a few months ago, mm-hmm. I was talking to Blake, the drummer, after the show. And I was like, wow, I didn't see any mics. Are they like internal mics or something? And he was like, dude, I'm using triggers. I could not believe it.
There you go.
And it's because he has a module that has many different sounds. It's not just one sound. It cycles through many different ones.
Right, which is something that also should be mentioned, that you can do that. You can cycle, like when you're triggering something, it's not hitting the same exact sound on every hit. You can cycle through sounds to make it sound like it's an acoustic drum.
So yeah, it blew my mind. I was like, wow, I've never been fooled before.
Wow, never been fooled before. Wouldn't that be a fun video, Naveen? We should totally do that.
What is that?
I mean, I don't know if we're the ones who should do that. We're not really content creators, but getting like a bunch of pro drummers, some who are super pro trigger, some who are super anti-trigger, playing a bunch of drums and seeing if they can tell
what's real and what's not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's an idea.
I thought I could, but I guess I can't because I was fooled at that show.
There you go. If anyone out there, if you're a content creator and you want to do that, just go ahead and shoot me credit in the byline, and
I know. People like a lot of that
hand
stuff,
it over
right?
to
These
you.
days, like reacting or whatever.
Yeah, they love that.
Drummer tries to play Metallica, first time hearing it.
So another thing that was just brought up in our chat, our Twitch chat, because we can access it directly during the show. If you are not listening on Twitch, that's a good reason to go and listen on Twitch. Jake Scrappile brought up that we should talk about whether we're pro or anti backing tracks, or what backing track, or if backing tracks are,
Oh yeah. I'm actually sort of anti backing tracks, even though we use them. I think it's pretty whack. I would prefer to not do it at all. To TBH.
What I would actually prefer, if we had the money, we would have way more than 5 people on stage playing. Yeah. And Navina and I have talked about this a million times.
Have enough people to just do all this stuff.
If it is possible, when the day comes, it's going to be possible one day, and we will just hire extra players to come with us, and we'll play with more than 2 guitar players, a bassist, and a drummer, and a vocalist. It'll be like a full band experience, because that to me is what I want to do. That to me is how to truly achieve like seeing a band in a live setting. Like that's what I want to do. And
I think for us though, I mean, maybe Jake
didn't bring it up.
A pretty big offense, and that's we have the bass on a backing track.
Mm-hmm.
So if you took that out, we wouldn't really have that much on the backing track.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of just like effects and that type of thing.
Oh, it was Amber. Sorry.
It's not like we have a shitload of synths and stuff, and it's gotten less over time.
Yeah.
So I think really what would be cool is to just have, a guy maybe who could play guitar and synth, and he could do some of the eerie lead shit in the background.
Yeah, 100%.
Do some of the synth stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of have like a multi instrumentalist guy back there doing all that stuff.
Yeah.
That to me would be so much cooler.
Totally.
And have 0 backing tracks.
Right now we're working on having backing vocals being something that's not that we're doing live, because it's like, that's the goal, is as we move forward to make everything more live. With that being said, backing tracks have their place.
Of course. If you can't afford a full band, like, we can't bring a 6-person band on tour.
Right.
We just can't do it. We don't have the room in our van. We don't, that's just not an option for us.
Yeah, it costs extra money to bring an extra person.
People
yeah,
and
you
all
have
this
to pay
stuff.
people.
So, of course, I don't personally care. If whatever you have to do to make the show happen, do it. I'm the guy who's gone on tour by myself playing drums to electronic music.
Yeah.
So I obviously don't care. It's a sound.
That's how I feel too. I think that whatever way you need to use to get your music across in a live environment, do it.
Yeah.
Play live.
Who cares?
If you want to play live, go and do it. I don't give a shit. I've seen a one-man band who did vocals too. It's like,
I like going to see DJs.
Yeah.
They don't play anything.
That essentially is just a backing track.
A couple buttons.
Yeah.
Like,
that's just a backing track.
It's been it's no less enjoyable for me.
100%.
So I don't think it matters at all. But for me personally, it would just be cool to get to the stage where we don't need the backing tracks at all.
Exactly. I agree with you 100%.
All right. Yeah.
Wow, you're getting really bent out of shape on that one.
Yeah. I mean, first things first, we got to get a fucking bass player.
Yeah, that's
so
live bass.
But yeah, I mean, and another thing that people don't, well, you do realize this when you're in a band, but each person that you bring on tour has to be someone that is vibing with the crew. Mm-hmm. And then if you're in our situation in a van, we have 2 crew people and 4 band people. So it's already 6 people.
Yes.
And the way our van is set up, Coco can't handle 7 people. It's completely uncomfortable. It sucks.
No.
6 people is like totally fine, in my opinion. It works great. 7, not so much.
Yeah, 7 is where it pushes it over the edge a bit.
Yeah.
It's a little...
Coco don't play that.
Coco don't play that. That's true. And, it's just things, because you think about those things. So think about all the bands you love and consider these things, when you're asking them, why don't you do this with this other person and this extra person? It does cost money to bring people on tour. So you always have to, like, before we do a tour, we sit down and do a budget. We know exactly the way that you bring on crew is that you agree with them how much you're going to pay them before a tour. So you have it all laid out. Usually we kind of do it by the day. So we pay by the day. It just depends on who you are, your band, how you do it. But you figure out a budget, you know how much you're going to pay everyone. You come up with a budget and you're like, can we afford this budget? Yeah. And you make it so that you can, whatever you're choosing to bring, you can afford.
Yeah. Or in the beginning, you have to find people that are just homies.
Totally.
That are down.
Totally.
Right? Because let's face it, we're not going to crack a sick budget on the first tour we did. I mean, those earlier tours we did, it was just kind of like, can you come with us? We'll pay you what we can.
Yeah.
And then we found people who were wanting to tour. Mike Torres.
Yes.
He wanted to get his foot in the door as a sound guy. Right. He didn't really know many other bands.
So you guys, if you do want a job in the music industry, if your dream is to be a crew person or even becoming a band member, because I will tell you that sometimes crew people become band members. It works out a million ways. Yeah. You find a band that you like that's touring. If you really can do this, you can road dog it for a month for free, for close to nothing. Go and get out there with a band, and all you have to do is prove yourself on 1 or 2 tours, and then you're in the game.
Yeah.
I promise you that will happen, because there is, especially after COVID, so many crew members retired from the game. Like, they found jobs at home, or, people grow out of being like a crew member, just because that to me is the most demanding job that you can get in the touring industry. And if you are interested in it at all,
why is it more demanding than being in a band?
It's more demanding because you have to be on tour constantly throughout the year if you want to tour if you want that to be your main job. Like, band members they go on tour, but they can go home and still make money off of the band. A crew member isn't like reaping the benefit of that. They're only getting paid while they're on tour. So that, to me, if you want to do that full time, it's the most demanding thing that you can take on.
And I think another thing that they have happen is they don't want to say no.
Yeah.
Because if they say no, the band might not hit them up again.
Right.
And they work for multiple bands.
That's true. So a million things can happen that way. There's a movie on Amazon Prime that's called, I think, Roadie.
I couldn't watch it. It hits too close to home.
It hits really close to home. I'm just
kidding. We should watch it.
We did watch it.
No, we did. I didn't watch it.
We watched one about touring. But anyway,
okay.
It is roadie. But there's another one. I think there are 2 about being roadies. The one that we watched was about like roadieing in big arenas for like arena bands, being a crew member. But you can get a feel for what it's like. You get to a venue, you're the one to set up. If you do merch, you have to be in there before everyone.
Oh yeah, that one that you're talking about.
Yeah.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah. But there's another one we were looking at the other night.
Right.
That was My bad.
But so yeah, it's a tough life. Like, but if you want to get into the game, I know crew members who have become band members. So, and
a lot of crew members work their way up real quick.
Absolutely.
All you have to do is be a pretty decent human and want to work.
That's true. I mean,
that's legit it.
We can name a few crew members right off the top of my head. Robbie Brown, who has done sound for us a few times.
Yeah.
Started off working, I think his first tour was with like Last Chance to Reason.
Yeah.
And now he works for Struggle Jennings, opening in arenas for Jelly Roll.
He's been on those tours.
Billy O, who also started off working for The Contortionists, now works for The Offspring.
Yeah, I'm not saying that you don't need to know what you're doing, but I think at first, it's more important that you want to do it, and you're a good guy to be around.
Totally,
that's like the most important thing.
Thaddeus, I met Thaddeus years ago, maybe 13 years ago, when he was on tour with Oceano, and now he works for huge like arena artists.
Yeah.
So if you want to do that and you're a good worker, you can get in. And you can work your way up, because I know that it sounds like none of these worlds are connected, that like The Offspring and pop artists and Oceano are so far off from each other, but the touring world is a small world.
Yeah. And I think we're talking about stuff that's a little further down the line.
Yeah.
But I think most bands, and we were on this level for quite a long time, you just got to do what you got to do to make it happen. And that's really why we're talking about the backing tracks and all that shit. Like, yeah, you can't have a bass player. Well, just fucking put it on a backing track.
Yeah.
You don't have the Slipknot guy who does the scratches on a CDJ or whatever. Put that on a backing track. You know what I mean?
Just put those.
It doesn't matter, man. Like, we're going to do whatever we have to go play the freaking shows.
Yeah, play the shows.
And that's like, that is more important than all this big time stuff.
Shout out Aviations for that raid. And also BM Woody Woo. We did about a 2-week tour with Oceano like a year and a half ago. That was awesome. We've actually toured with Oceano. Our very first tour was with Oceano and Veil of Maya and Revocation, and Gift Giver was someone else on that tour. I don't think so. But yeah, we have toured with them. We love them. That was awesome.
Oceano, Veil of Maya.
Revocation.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can get into this if that's what you dream of doing.
But you got to have that opening. Got to have that shot.
You got to have the shot.
So it could be you're going to go on tour with one of the smaller bands that's opening up for a bigger band.
Yeah.
And you want to just get your foot in the door and do a really good job and sort of make friends with all the other bands on tour. If you're a good dude and you do good work, you're going to go on.
You'll go far.
Yeah.
You'll go far. I mean, the people who work for us right now, Shannon, who does merch for us, we know Shannon because she was driving for Within Destruction on another tour that we did. I believe that was her first tour. One of her first. And now she tours, she drives for Psychroptic. She does merch for us. She has a job in the industry. Harrison does lights for us.
Harrison, dude, getting in there.
You know, Robbie Brown, we met him. He did sound for us on Lorna Shore. We met Robbie because he was on tour with the Contortionists when we toured with him. Yeah. If you're a good worker, if you do good work, people really take notice of it. So,
and what's great about being a crew guy is you don't have to worry about all the bull that exists being in the band.
That's also, you can disconnect from that aspect of it.
You can just be like, I don't care. I'm going home. See you later. I'll take my day rate. Bye.
Totally.
Yeah. So. But on this episode, we wanted to take the opportunity to do some questions. And I think
Shannon works for Interloper as well. There you go.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
There we go.
There you go. Chen, you want to hit us off to some of these
Yes,
Q&As?
all right. We have some Qs. We got some Qs, and you gave us some Qs. We have some As. All right. The first one is from Lycan Lord. What makes a record overproduced?
Wow. Okay. So overproduced is a term that I don't use. And the reason I don't use it is because that's just, they're producing it the way they want it to sound.
Yeah.
But I think what it refers to is doing too much in the way of studio production to the music to where it doesn't really sound like a band anymore.
To me, it's just, if I think something is overproduced, then it's produced past a point of being appropriate for the kind of music that it is.
Yeah. I'm familiar with that term. I have been for a long time.
Yeah. But
the thing that I think a lot of people don't realize is music is oftentimes extremely produced.
Absolutely.
But it's just meant to sound a certain way.
Right.
So really what you're saying is you just don't like that type of production.
You don't like the production. That's
like
really
the big, I mean, would you call, I don't know, I'm trying to think of a metal Black album overproduced?
Well, I think some people would say it's overproduced.
I mean, I don't think so. I think the recording sounds pretty raw and aggressive and really good.
Right.
But it's, what I'm saying is it's not always obvious all the work that has gone into an album to make it sound a certain way.
Yeah. So really, when something does sound overproduced, I think it is kind of like I said, it's produced past the point of being appropriate, because oftentimes records that are hailed as being the greatest production of all time are super produced records, but they aren't produced so much that they're inappropriate for the style of music.
Okay, that's probably a better way that I'm explaining it.
So When have I actually thought a record is overproduced? I don't really know, because usually I'm just like, well, that's what they were going for.
Yeah. And I would say there's certain type of production that I'm kind of just tired of hearing. I'm personally tired of hearing productions that don't sound really realistic.
Yeah.
That sound hyperly like this perfect version of what you wish it was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm kind of tired of hearing that. But that doesn't mean that I think they overly produced it. I think that just means that I'm not really vibing with how they want their record to sound.
Yeah, and I also think that different styles of production can alter like the same music. For instance, a lot of let's use Marissa Nadler as an example. Marissa Nadler, it's some of her music, it's just like guitar voice. If that was super produced, because what production actually means, it's not that it's like, okay, what it would mean to overproduce that is to take it into a studio, add way too many layers, make it way too plastic. And that would just really make what she does into a different genre than acoustic, like singer-songwriter type stuff, right? Mm-hmm. So if you produced her songs in a different way, then you might end up with like a Tovlo song or a Tovlo song or like a Sia song that's like polished pop production. Mm. So it's still the same song, but now it's a pop song.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So different styles of production can change genres, but when something is like overproduced, yeah, I agree with you. It's like it just means I don't like the style of the production. Like usually I don't like fake drums on stuff, but sometimes you can fool me and I'm down for the fake drums. Like it just depends on if it serves the music.
I guess it's just a term that I probably wouldn't use because I would just talk more specifically about the production. Mm-hmm. Oh, I don't like that they have a million symphonic backing layers on the thing.
Right.
I don't like that, you know, or go the other way. Maybe it's the way they produce the snare. I don't like it. You know, so I'd be more specific in what I talk about.
Yeah.
Just by saying a blank, oh, it's overly produced. It's like, well, what does that mean? You want to hear like a 4-track recorder, like a, you know?
Right. Because no one wants to hear that. No one wants to hear an SM58 put down in the middle of their practice room and fucking recorded onto a karaoke tape machine. That's what it means to not be produced.
But even that is a type of production.
That's true.
Right? That you're going for.
That's true. Some like grind band might be super stoked on that and put it up on Bandcamp or whatever.
They want it to sound like that.
They want it to sound like that.
That's their type of production.
So the answer to that, I guess, is that it just depends on what you're going for. I don't know if something can be overproduced.
Yeah, I agree.
There we go. Overproduction, it's all in your head, man. It's just, does it serve what you are listening to or not? Is it to your taste? There's room in the entire world. Some people sit and listen to a drone, just one drone note in the back of their head for like, that's their music, you know? And then some people listen to technical symphony. I don't know.
Yeah.
There's room for all sound and music in the world.
Doesn't mean that we all have to like all of it.
That doesn't mean we don't have to like all of it, and we're probably not going to.
Yeah.
If you're honest with yourself, you don't like everything, but you can find things to like about everything if you try.
True.
All right, next question.
True that.
Argos has 2 questions, which are both pretty damn good questions. Question 1, following up on Naveen's comments from a recent podcast, what musicality things have you learned from Evan Brewer? You mentioned learning a lot from him.
Very cool. Evan taught me the basics of music theory. So he really taught me, okay, here's how music theory works. It's all based on the major scale. And what the numbers mean is they're the intervals of that scale. And when one's sharp or flat, you'd say, flat 3, that's a minor scale. He taught me that. I didn't know that before I met him. And so he taught me that. He introduced me to the guitar grimoire books, which I used a lot and still do, which just are basically like scale encyclopedias. That would be the most major thing that comes to mind.
Yeah, I mean, Evan knows a lot about music.
Yeah.
Which is one of the reasons we should have Evan on the podcast. I mean, there are numerous reasons, but one reason the high school that he went to, from what I understand, like he went to a music high school or in high school. I don't know exactly. He's told me before, so I'm probably getting some of it wrong, but it's like a lot of what he was doing in high school was like being in. Do you know more about this?
No, I don't. I know about as much as you do.
Yeah.
I think it was more like a high school for like artists.
Yeah, he was in like an artist's high school.
Mm-hmm.
And
where he could learn about music and spend his time doing that.
Yeah. He knows a lot about music.
Yeah, definitely. And just sort of exposing me to that sort of mindset, because I was just caveman before that. Like, make it sound cool. I don't know. Which I think is good. I think it's good that I'm not overly musical. I think people can fall into a trap there.
I do too. I think.
And they don't want to take any risks anymore.
Yeah, I think that learning, in a weird way, learning everything that you can about something can make the walls of limitation close in on you a little bit, because you maybe start to believe that everything should exist within those parameters.
Yeah.
But the real thing behind art, I think, should always be self-expression. Yep. It should always... It shouldn't be completely reliant on all of the rules that exist. One of the best parts about it is that there are a bunch of rules that you can break. So,
but you got to know the rules to break.
You got to know the rules to break them.
Yeah. So
100%. Okay. The second question.
All right. We're having a lot of good stuff here.
From Argos was, how do tours happen? Does the label always put them together? Or do you instead use networking / connections or homies to get you on the bill? Do you ever make other bands offers to put you on bills?
So I'll start with the last part. Opening bands don't ever put offers to bigger bands to put them on tour. That's not a thing.
No, it's the opposite.
Yeah. And I would say all the above. It rarely comes from a label, but I'm sure it's happened where a label has had some influence on one of the bigger bands to take out one of their smaller bands.
Of course, or sometimes the label will put together like the 50th anniversary of the label.
Yeah.
But so every band who is touring. So I was thinking about this question earlier, and actually the first person who worked for us was a booking agent. So if you're getting on tours, chances are you have a booking agent. We have a booking agent, and most bands you can think of have a booking agent. Maybe their booking agent is in their band. That's really rare. So we all have a booking agent, right?
Covering all the bases here.
Booking agents there is a like master list of tours that are coming down the pipe. So there will be a headlining band, right? The headlining band usually has a budget of the package that they can put together. So you have a budget of how much money you can spend on the bands that open for you. And the headlining band may have some ideas of the bands that they would like to put on their headlining tour. And in that case, they'll shoot out offers to those bands. Those bands can either accept or deny. That can be based on networking, I guess. I don't know if I would call it that. But the reason a headliner would reach out to you to take you on tour is because they like you. They know you. They love your band. They want to take you on tour. There are all kinds of reasons. Any reason you can think of. Yeah. So they'll shoot out offers. People will either accept or deny those offers. That's one way. Sometimes a headliner has an idea for maybe the direct support that they're taking out, but they have no idea who the other bands are that they should take out on tour. And in that case, they will accept like suggestions from booking agents. So their booking agent will reach out to all of the other booking agents in the world and say, hey, we're looking for a band in this range to put on this tour, a band who would maybe play a 2 out of 5 opening for these two bands. Is there anyone you have in mind? So your booking agent will throw you over to the headlining band, or vice versa. If you're the headlining band, your booking agent will receive those bands, and then you go through, you pick out some bands, you put a tour together. And that's usually how it works. Some bands are not available for certain tours. Keep in mind, there are 1,000 trillion tours going on at any given time. Some tours are booked for a year in advance. Some tours are booked 2 years in advance. Some tours you don't know about until 3 months in advance. Sometimes a band drops off of a tour who you thought you were going on tour with, and they're replaced 2 weeks before the tour happens. Usually they get replaced before the announcement of the tour.
Sometimes a tour is booked and then the headliner drops off to go do something else.
Yep.
And the tour falls apart.
And then the tour falls apart.
But yeah, I mean, the way you're going to get on a tour, a big way, is if your band is doing really well.
Yeah.
Then people are going to want to take you on tour.
Absolutely.
And that's really, I'd say the main way that bands get on tour. The bigger bands solicit the smaller booking agents. Like you said, we're looking for a smaller band to open or whatever. And they're probably just going to pick the one who seems to be the biggest.
Yeah.
How they determine that, I'm not exactly sure. It's going to be looking at all their numbers online and all that stuff.
Yeah, and by
That's
numbers.
really it.
So they're going to look at, it's not simply Spotify plays, but Spotify plays do play a role in that. Sometimes bands that have way more Spotify plays than another band will play way below another band. It depends on, YouTube plays. Do you have albums out? How many copies have your albums sold? How many followers do you have on each platform? What's your social media presence? What's the, all of these things play a part in where you're put at on a tour package and how much money you can get to be on a tour and whether or not you get tours in the first place.
But I really think that people stress the importance of touring a little too much.
Mm-hmm.
Don't you think that, Janie?
I think that it can be stressed a little too much, yes.
I think in the beginning, bands really want to go on tour and
Right.
doing it. It's kind of like better to not. I would say it's better to build up your project as big as you can at home. Then when you go on tour, it's gonna be even better when you do go on tour.
Well, I think you're setting yourself up for it depends on what your goals are with touring.
That's true. If you want to just go have fun with the boys,
Then go have fun.
just get on tour. Do it.
But
Which is really fun.
if your goal is to be a career band, to have a career, then you have to be a little more picky, choosy with the tours that you take. You have to see is this a tour that will push the needle for us? Is this a tour that will push things forward? Or are we going to lose money on this tour and we're just doing it because we want to go hang out? Could we be doing something more effective with our time at home? Should we be writing an album? Should we be, there are a lot of things that you have to take into account. And I agree with you. Sometimes there can be a lot of emphasis on like touring nonstop. The other thing to take into account, if you're touring with 5 people nonstop, you're going to start to wear on each other. It's going to start to wear on your home life. You have to be aware of all of these things. It's
You're gonna get sick of these guys.
Yeah, you have to maintain your sanity. If you want to make a career out of it and not burn yourself out, your sanity is the most important thing. Like you do have to keep that in mind.
It's a marathon, not a sprint.
It's a marathon, not
A
a sprint.
a wiser person than myself told me that.
A very wise man.
But yeah, I would say get out there, meet people, and make great music. But the thing is, for me, my mindset has always been to make music that I think is cool
Yeah,
and meet people that I actually want to be friends with.
totally.
So I'm not one of these people. I know tons of people and they're all really cool. Mm-hmm. And I don't think of them as somebody who could do something for me.
Yeah.
I'm not networking, quote unquote, to get something out of somebody. I'm actually out there. I'm a genuine person who's trying to make friends.
Yeah.
Because I think that enhances my life. And then it just so happens that, I make music too. So it aligns to where sometimes we play music together.
I think that's the most important thing. I don't like going into things with the thought of, I'm going to go network at this. That's
not the way to go.
Totally not the way to go. I mean, people can see through that. And also it's just not a genuine way to be. Like networking, I mean, it's not even really a thing that works. I think that what you should do is try to forge friendships because you should have allies in the musical world. There's so many things that I've learned through people who know what they're doing, who know more about the music world than me, who are in bands, you know, you can learn a lot from each other and you can have fantastic relationships with people. Naveen and I are in a situation, it's like the people that we have a lot of stuff in common with are people who love music and who play music and have thoughts on music. And it's like making friends with those people is far more important to me than networking. Like networking shouldn't be how you look at anything, but with friendships, you know, you never know where those can go, but don't approach it in that way.
Yeah. And
I mean,
say. Even there'll be a time when you're not in a band anymore.
Yeah. And you still want to have those friends. You don't want those relationships to go away just because you're networking the whole time. Like that's not
I've been in and out of bands but I've still maintained a lot of friends through all that time. And I think it's important to realize that the things that make our life better and make a good life isn't being famous is not one of those things.
No.
So although we are striving to grow the band or business or whatever that you do, and that's great, that's cool. We have to do that to eat. The things that are going to actually enrich our lives are having meaningful relationships and doing work that we feel is good.
Absolutely.
Boom, there you go.
I think that is a key to living a great life. Having great relationships. There's nothing better to me than having a bunch of friends. Or just having friends who we can hang out with and Nashville's becoming this place where a bunch of our friends live, and it's so cool to be able to hang out all the time and talk about life and things we love with people who we love. That's really the most important thing.
And a lot of them we do work with in some capacity,
Absolutely.
right? I mean, we do.
Absolutely.
Mark's our really good friend. We record with him. Evan is awesome. Plays on our stuff. I mean, Harrison is our friend that we met through music.
Yeah.
But now he kind of comes on tour and works for the band. I mean, but I don't look at people from the work side first. You know, I'm looking at it from, I just want to be friends.
Yeah.
And then we work together.
Networking is a very NAM term to me.
Yeah.
Dude, I'm going to go network. I'm going to go.
So don't be networking with me.
Don't be networking, but we'll be friending. That's for sure.
Net friending.
I'm trying to net a bunch of friends.
Because networking kind of implies that you're only going to be friends with people that can do something for you.
Yeah, right.
But I don't feel like we're like that.
Maybe we're harping.
Although I get all my friends to do stuff for me all the time. So.
But yeah, what was that? So that question, networking, connections, homies. Yeah, it's really homies. That would be it. But it's also connections. I'm not going to lie to you guys. Yep. There are some tours that we've done because our manager manages another band on that tour.
Yeah, 100%.
That is being completely honest with you guys.
So it's really trying to line up all those things. Trying to stack the odds in your favor.
You know what's at the very heart of that, though? Making music that you love. That is where it all begins. Making something that you're proud of, doing it for the purpose of being an artist. Yeah. And I think that everything else, it all grows from that because you're coming from a genuine place. If you don't like playing music, don't play music.
Yeah.
You know,
I
do
agree.
things that you love, be around people that you love. The rest of it all comes along with it.
There's way better ways to make money than play music.
Yeah, dude, go be a fucking mechanical engineer, dude. You're gonna make
be a nurse.
Trillions of dollars. I was thinking
an engineer, yeah.
So, you know, we talk a lot about whether or not you can live off of music and all these things. And I was thinking that this is one of the careers that takes the longest, specifically like being in music, being in like progressive metal like we play. It's one of the careers that takes the longest to, you know, get to a point where it can actually be a thing that you rely on monetarily. If you go to college, how long does it take to get like a degree being like doing computer programming?
I have no idea.
Maybe,
how would I know that?
I don't know, even if it takes 8 years. You know, you can learn it in 8 years, get a job, make a shitload of money on the other way.
That's still a pretty long time.
True. All right. Maybe I have no point.
I think most businesses
2 to 4
are
years.
going to take.
Harrison knows. See, you can walk out of school in 2 to 4 years, have a job.
That doesn't mean
where
that
you're
going to
making,
have a job, though.
Yeah, I don't know. True. All jobs take time.
They take time, man.
There we go.
It all takes time.
All right. Another question. How far are we into this podcast?
We are exactly no less than 49 minutes.
Okay. We still have another. Okay. Will is stoned. Another question for the pod. So he must have a different question. Oh, any news on the Time Will Take Us All Part 2 drum playthrough?
Okay. So drum playthrough is filmed and also mixed by yours truly this time.
Damn.
So I asked Meinl if I could mix it, not because I have any problems with Steve's mixing. He's a really sick engineer. He did the last video. I kind of just wanted to give it a try. You know, I mix a lot of stuff here at the house on my playthroughs and my videos, and I'm trying to do more of that kind of work. So I mixed it, and it sounds pretty awesome. Pretty stoked on it.
All right. So when's it coming out?
I don't know when it's coming out.
All right.
But
no
it is
news.
done. There is a mix going, and Meinl has a lot of content to put out. You know?
True.
So I would imagine within the next month or so.
There we go.
Boom.
Like in Lord, jobs need no time. A career takes time. There we go.
Yeah.
A career takes time, man.
Mm-hmm.
True that. Okay. So
it's no different from being in a band. It's no different from anything else.
That's true. Maybe I spoke
And
too
you gotta
soon
like
on that.
what you do. But
You
being in a
gotta
band
like what you
is
do.
worse because you get a lot.
I don't know if it's worse.
get
I just
shit
think
on
that
more.
it takes a lot of time.
Yeah.
You know, it takes time. Will is stoned. Another question for the pod. Is there anywhere I can hear Naveen's solo drum set from that Brooklyn show?
Okay, another thing I'm working on.
All right. Everything's being worked on.
So that is actually going to be put out next week.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, awesome. That's great news.
Yeah. So we're working on that. I'm gonna mix it, but it's a lot less. It's not like the Meinl one where I have like an acoustic drum. It's a lot more kind of already done. So I am gonna oversee the audio on that one.
Yeah.
And then it's gonna be put out I believe at the end of this week or next week. One of the two.
There we go. Mike
And-
Caputo said, oh, do you still have
That's it.
Oh, sorry. Mike Caputo said, shout out to Meinl being the only cymbal company that I've seen that actually cares about making content and promoting their artists.
Yeah, and beyond that, they are a huge metal supporting cymbal company.
100.
So if you go to their YouTube right now and just take a look through their videos, it's like a big majority metal and death metal at that. And I don't see hardly any other companies supporting underground metal the way that Meinl does. And I say that to them actually every time I go shoot there. I'm like, you guys are freaking awesome for doing this stuff.
No, it's truly awesome. And if you guys do not already follow Meinl, it's the page on Instagram, the YouTube. It's so worth following because they fly drummers out. And their drummers, like Naveen said, it's a lot of metal drummers. They're catering to what you guys are listening to. They have a ton of metal drummers on their channel. They fly drummers out and have them play songs from their band. They have them do a bunch of other stuff.
They
it's
make really
cool.
Great videos.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's
High
the
quality.
best channel.
If you're a drummer, if you're into drumming content,
it's the best channel.
it's the best channel.
I mean, where's the lie?
By far. There's no lie.
Where's the lie?
No lie. Shout out Chris Brewer.
Yeah.
Drekken FPS. There's two songs you guys that I have that I love. Similar vocals and breakdown pretty much in both songs, The Interior Wilderness and Darkest Day. The taking back, if you will, parts. What's the story behind that? Continuation to what the songs are about. It's been driving me nuts and I have OCD. So I guess that is a question for me.
We kind of did some repeat themes on the album.
Yeah, so Time Will Take Us All. I was saying this in the pre-show, but there is an entire podcast on the album. It's just called Time Will Take Us All. We did it about a year ago. The album came out last March. So with that being said, yes, the entire thing is a concept album, and there are parts there are lyric parts. That's one of the lyrical parts that repeats itself. Another one off the top of my head can be found in Purgatory. There's a part where I say it's a very fast, high-pitched part that's like, days like death become stagnant and I begin questioning the very things I have come to be. So that part from In Purgatory can also be found in the interior wilderness. There are parts throughout the record that repeat themselves as a repeating motif, instrumentally and lyrically, and it's all a part of the concept of time. So go back and listen to that podcast if you want to hear an entire breakdown of it. But yes, it's a continuation to what the songs are about. Time Will Take Us All. The entire record is about the concept of time, how we spend time, and the lyrics are all a part of that concept.
And sort of how we wanted parts to feel like a memory of another part, right, Janie?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And just sort of kind of have this like human experience that you have in your mind a lot.
Right.
When you remember something and it's kind of different than it came and you're like, did I already hear this or not? There's sort of like deja vu parts. And that was kind of like what I was going for when I was writing the music.
Absolutely.
It's having this one cohesive thing that is just a trip, and you feel kind of like you've lived a life when you've listened to the whole thing.
Yes. And that's also the lyrical content is supposed to reflect that as well. Because when you do trip, for those of you who have done that, when you finish a trip, you feel like you've lived.
Yeah, I'm a podcaster. I do mushrooms.
Yeah, I'm a podcaster. I'll talk about tripping on DMT on air. But when you do trip, you feel like you've experienced a large chunk of time.
Yeah.
In an 8-hour period, however many hours. You feel like sometimes it feels like you've experienced years of time, and et cetera and so on. So the album reflects that musically as well.
Exactly. And I think
yeah, I'm a podcaster. I get in ice baths after I do smoke DMT in my sauna.
God, that's something that we should never talk about, dude.
DMT or saunas.
Yeah, just any of that type of stuff. I hate it.
I do love saunaing.
That's overproduced, Janie, the podcast.
Yeah, I'm a podcaster. I love MMA.
Yeah, any Joe Rogan thing, basically. We need to go in another direction.
All right, Rob McCambridge. But, go back and listen to our explanation of the album. It really, lyrically, what it's about, I got in a really bad scooter accident. Some of you might not even know that. Some of you might not have been there for that. I got in a really bad scooter accident right when we started recording vocals for Time Will Take Us All. It originally had a different title. When I got in the accident, it kind of flipped. So I cut open my entire upper lip. My nose was knocked to the side. My chin was pulled apart from my gums. It was pretty bad. I couldn't do vocals for a while. It flipped my entire reality because I didn't know if I would be able to go back and do vocals to the same extent that I'd been doing them before. We're talking about while we were writing Time Will Take Us All. So our band had been a band for many years at this point. I've been a vocalist for many years of my life. So it made me examine who I was, my concept of time, whether or not I was happy with the way that I was living my life, being in a super dark place right after my accident. And it details how I felt in that time within this concept of I only have one life to live. Who am I in this life? So, yeah, that's what the album's about.
Yeah.
There you go.
That's great.
Yep. Thanks. Anyways. So you ordered the album even though I ordered 2 copies and never got the gray one I wanted. The album is officially sold out. So shout out to all of you who have bought it on vinyl.
Every vinyl that was pressed is sold. Unless
maybe Indie Merch still has a few, but it's pretty much sold out.
Because we even brought there could be some in the European store.
Maybe.
Because we left some, remember?
True. There might be some there. With that being said, we are getting new pressings this year. And we're also releasing an old favorite on vinyl, which we will talk about more later in the year.
Yeah.
So to Rob McCambridge's question, I have crazy stage fright and social anxiety when it comes to showing others my talents. I'm a drummer for about 20 years, and I've been silently practicing in my shed every other day for the last 7 years. What advice or mantras can you provide to help me get out of my shell and show the world what I can do? Much love from New Zealand. Shout out Rob. He's been listening to our podcast forever.
That's awesome.
So thanks for listening, Rob.
All right. Well, I would say the only way to get over doing something is to do it a lot.
100%.
And you just get more used to doing it. So I would assume that he doesn't play in public very often. Mm-hmm. So a good way to start is posting videos online, right?
That's what I was gonna say.
Like I kind of feel like when I'm making a video that I'm performing, even though it's not live. I just like I get kind of nervous, like I want it to be right. But you never really truly get over going on stage. I mean, I think I do once we've been on stage been on tour for a couple weeks. I'll feel comfortable and not really feel much. Yeah. But when we take a break, you know, I'm always like really nervous for the first few days.
Oh, there are always like, nerves.
God, I hope there's nothing. But I'm usually more nervous about things breaking.
Yeah.
Than me being able to play the songs.
I would say I also like that sense of nervousness never goes away, especially right before a show. But the minute I'm on stage, then it goes away. But right before, there are always pre-show butterflies to some extent. Yeah. Like you never know. You're just kind of like gearing up. It's the show. You're like, oh, here it comes. We're gonna do the show, and those nerves are always going to exist. So I think it's just a matter of you got to move past that. It's moving past the nerves. And just like Naveen said, starting to get out there, whether it's in front of, on video is a great way to do it. When I first started doing videos all the time, I would get sort of nervous. And I think one of the reasons is because in videos, you can't really like correct the performance. It just is what it is.
Yeah.
And live, you know, it's not, if you miss a note or if you do something a little weird, you
just keep moving.
Yeah, you just keep moving.
You're keeping on.
You keep moving.
With the video, you're like, oh, I got a really good take here. And if I screw up at the end,
I will do that. I gotta
do it again.
I will do that. I've been in my head thinking about that. Like, oh my God, I got past this part. What if I mess up this next part? I know that. And I almost get in my head more when I'm doing videos. Yeah. I would say I do get in my head more when I'm doing videos and because, you know, it's just you by yourself right there. So try doing that.
All right. I'm going to keep it going here. Jump off of another question here.
Yeah.
From Buns Zayton. And this is for Cheney. Can you talk about how you develop your stage performance, presence, style? Do you practice or rehearse the moves, quote unquote, or does it just come naturally? And I know that Cheney does practice her moves in the mirror actually every day with a comb instead of a microphone.
That's true. It's with a comb.
No,
I mean, any like stage moves that I do, they just are things that I naturally do when I'm on stage. With that being said, when you're at home, when you're practicing, you just kind of the moves just come out because they exist. Like when I'm practicing for a show with our band, it's the same as when I'm on stage with our band. But, you know, you kind of like, I don't know, there's like I don't really know how to explain it any further. Like it's something that
I think you definitely got more comfortable over time on stage.
That
so
is
you're
true.
A little less timid.
That is true.
And when you can open up more, you can kind of, you know, rip the moves. I'll feel more confident.
That's a really good point. And I would say that that's something that can only be developed in front of a crowd because you cannot, no matter what you do, replicate what it's like to get out in front of a crowd and have 1,000 people staring at you until you get out and do it, or 10 people staring at you until you get out and do it. So it's
about 7 people
or 7 or even 1, even if it's your mom. Even if it's your mom, you still want to sound sick in front of your mom. You're like, you know, so it's only something that you can do over time. And the more that you play shows, the more that you're repetitive with that, the more used to it you're going to get. But it does take practice over time. You start to realize, okay, this is something that works on stage. Here's something that I did when I was 17 or 18. I would stare at the drum kit. I would like turn around on stage and the drummer of my band was like, you have to look at the crowd the entire time. Like stop turning around on stage. So then you learn, but you can only learn how you're going to be live when you play a show live because in your living room, everything can be like going great. And then when you get live, you're hella timid.
Yeah.
So
it's a whole different thing.
It's a whole different thing.
As we've seen in the past.
Yes. It's a whole different thing.
Whole different ball game. And that's the thing about playing on tour. People come there and they might want to pass judgment on you.
Right.
But you're like, maybe you think you could do it, but have you ever played a show when you've been sleeping in a van for 15 days?
Right.
And you're hungry or it's cold and you're sick and you still have to play anyway? It's a whole different thing.
It's different.
It's a whole different thing.
It is. It's different to play a home show than it is to play a show in that circumstance.
Yeah.
So you never know.
You have to just get out there and do it.
Everything's different. You got to get out there and do it. And eventually you do get to a comfortable point where you're like, I can do this every night. We got the hang of it.
And just turn it on.
And then, all right, final question of the night. Cat Dog Salad, new EP when? The new EP is coming out this year. And so are all of the songs on the new EP. But in the meantime, we did last week put out a drum corps remix of our song I'm the Void that you guys should go and listen to. And I promise that it won't be long now before we start dropping songs off of the EP.
Yep. Maybe when the snow has melted.
Maybe once the snow is melted.
Yeah. It's too cold right now.
Right now it's a little too cold.
It's too cold to bring that kind of heat.
It's too cold.
Oh,
that's a good one, Naveen. Wow, is that a little lyrical call out? All right. Well, with that being said, thank you guys as always for hanging out. We love you so much. It means the world to us that you tune into the podcast, and we hope you have a fantastic week.
And we're going to jump over to the post show. We're going to actually spin the new remix and hang out.
Much love, you guys.
See you guys over there. Peace.